For Crema Media's Polity, I'm Sane Dlamini. Journalist Sizwe Yende joins me to discuss his book titled Eerie Assignment, A Journalist's Nightmare in Mpumalanga. Welcome, Sizwe.
Thanks a lot.
Your book narrates about your experiences of being caught in a toxic environment. I can also mention corruption during our deputy president's tenure in Mpumalanga. Why did you see the need to highlight these activities?
Well, first of all, I thought that I should explain the mystery that has been in Mpumalanga province. Let people out there know what has been happening in Mpumalanga, why people were being killed, why people were fearing for their lives. And being a person who has also been under threat myself, my life has been under threat, I thought that I'm best placed to tell this story because I have first-hand experiences of those evil things that have been taking place.
And tell us a bit about David Mabuza's character.
Well, he's got two characters actually. If you speak to different people, some will tell you that he's a good guy who's gonna help you anytime you need help, whether you're short of money for groceries, whether your kids need to go to university. But other people will tell you that he's got deep-rooted hatred within himself, that if you are on his wrong side, he can destroy you completely. Your political era can be destroyed as well.
You also speak a bit about exposing corruption on different levels in Mpumalanga. Can you mention a few incidents
of corruption? Well, there's been quite a lot. I don't know which ones I can single out, but you know the Bondville Stadium? That's the biggest single corruption scandal in the province. You know the stadium was worth 1.2 billion rands. There have been other scandals like the land scandals where people were selling land to government at inflated prices. There have also been land scandals where government officials in the Department of Human Settlements were involved in basically teaming up with people in the private sector, colluding to inflate the prices of land. When the Department of Human Settlements wants to build houses and is looking for land, then those pieces of land will be sold at very, very high prices. There've been quite a lot, you know. A few years back, the matric results scandal where results were inflated. Those were the big ones, but there've also been smaller ones, you know, where the tender is given to the wrong person who doesn't qualify, but because he's politically connected, then he gets it. It's quite a lot, actually. I cannot count them here, all of them.
But your life was a threat on several occasions. I know there was a car issue where maybe you were supposed to die while driving a car because of what you've uncovered. Why that didn't stop you? You kept on going even though your life was like in threat.
Yeah, well, I would say first it's my job, okay? But secondly, you look at the bigger picture. You know, there are many people who rely on you, the taxpayers, the poor people. So you have to, you know, I understand that I've got the responsibility to ensure that public resources are used appropriately and they benefit everybody, not just a few corrupt individuals. I think that's the main thing that made me go on and never stop.
You also mentioned a gift of 5,000 rand that you were offered by Mabuto Sithole at the time. You also didn't take that gift. Tell us a bit about what was that 5,000 for?
Oh, well, there was a story I was writing about a project called Masibuyele Masimini, Let's Go Back to the Fields. Yeah, actually there was corruption because government issued a tender of, if I'm not mistaken, it was 300 million rands for a private company to buy those tractors, help subsistence farmers in all the rural villages with seeds, with tractors, with everything that they need, so that there can be food security in the province, so that the poor rural families as well can make some money from subsistence farming. But now the whole tender, the way it was awarded, everything just went wrong. And there were also concerns that the prices there were just too high. It was inflated. So there was an investigation that was done by the Integrity Management Unit in the Office of the Premier. Preliminary investigations did indicate that something wrong took place there, but nothing was done because at that time the owners of this company were friends of the Premier at that time. So the suspicion is that nothing was done just because of that relationship.
A lot of people have always been interested on what happened in the Mpumalanga Stadium scandal. Can you briefly tell us what happened when those two guys died? I know it was Jimmy Mohlala as well as James Kambole.
Yeah, well, Jimmy Mohlala's case, he was the speaker of the seat of Mpumalanga at that time. So when these tenders for the stadium were being issued, there was quite a lot of corruption, the irregularities, you know. So he was speaking out about that corruption. And then all of a sudden, just when he was about to go to the police to lay charges and everything, I think it was a day before, then he was shot dead. That's basically that. James Kambule was not really involved in the Mpumalanga corruption case as such, or trying to expose the real corruption that was taking place there. But he alleges that he met somebody by the name of Josh, a Mozambican national, who had confessed to him that Josh was telling James that his own life was in danger. He had been used to kill certain people for political reasons, including Jimmy Mohlala and a whole lot of other people who died, either who in Mpumalanga, who were either shot or they were poisoned or something like that. So then this guy, I have never met that guy, Josh, and James, then they wrote that affidavit that details everything, who was killed, for what and where, and who they were plotting to kill. So Josh and James' story, that's how far it goes.
You've once worked for government as a spokesperson, but you said you didn't enjoy the job. Why?
Well, quite a lot of things. Firstly, from being a journalist going into government, you just find the environment is dirty. The corruption, you see it every day. Sometimes you're being pushed to do corruption yourself. Then it's really not good enough. And also, it was a mistake as well, because I think I have more impact on people's lives being a journalist than sitting in a government office somewhere.
Tell us about the people who've maybe given you information, first-hand information, that made you to write those big stories about corruption in Mpumalanga. Why were they telling you these things?
Well, there may be two reasons. One, it could be that they are really concerned as well about the corruption that is taking place. But another reason, it could be that they've got their own agendas. Then they see that, okay, here something is wrong. This person is doing what is wrong, and I've got issues with him. Let me just expose this person. So, you know, sources will always come to you with a particular agenda. It's always the case. It's not always about just giving out the information for the sake of giving it out. It's about gaining something out of it. Yeah.
And your family and friends must have been concerned at the time when you also received death threats. What were you thinking? Maybe, I'm sure they might have said to you, maybe stop doing this because now your life is in danger, but you continue to write and report.
Yeah, of course. Naturally they will be worried. But once I told them my reasons that I cannot stop, then they understood that I cannot stop. So they said, okay, well, go on, but be careful. I got a lot of advices on how I should live, you know, places I should go and shouldn't go. You know, I got a lot of advices, but I had a lot of people looking after me. So I think that also gave me the courage to continue.
And have you heard from David Mabuza since the book came out?
Well, yeah, he did give me a call just 3 days after it was published. Well, he had not read anything. He just gave me a call and said to me, I heard that you have published a book and you are saying that I killed people. I said, no, if you can just take your time, get a copy of the book, read it, and then come back to me later. Because nowhere does the book say David Mabuza killed people. It doesn't.
And tell us about your relationship with your mentor, Umzilikazi wa Africa.
Oh, Umzilikazi. More than a friend, more than a mentor. He's a brother to me. Basically, he's the guy, the first time I went to Nelspruit, he was the guy who welcomed me and who took it upon himself to ensure that I'm well, I'm taken care of, I can eat, I've got shelter over my head. And yeah, we've been close friends ever since. Even now, we, you know, it's somebody I can confide it to, it's somebody helping me here and there. We help each other. Now I'm a man on my own, so if he needs help, you know, we help each other. So it's more than being a mentor. It's like a brother.
And we know that there are journalists even now who write stories because maybe they've been bribed. What can you say to journalists who are not like following media ethics to the T?
The thing is, we've got the responsibility to protect the integrity of this profession. So my advice to them is that let us avoid temptation at all costs. Because as you know, this profession, the integrity is at stake. Everybody's talking about the media being an agent of white monopoly capital and all sorts of stories. It's up to us to prove to people that, look, we are here to work, and we are here working for society, and we are here as well to assist in building the country, which is South Africa.
We know that Mpumalanga, as well as maybe KwaZulu-Natal, for argument's sake, are one of the 2 provinces that have been laced with scandals and corruption, especially even in our ruling party, the ANC. What are you trying to do with this book? What's maybe an agenda, or maybe what is your purpose of writing this book about what happened in your province, in Mpumalanga?
Well, first and foremost, people have got to know the truth, get the facts actually, so that they can make up their own minds. I cannot control what they do with the information, but they need to be able to make up their own minds. That first and foremost, that's the reason. But secondly, I just could not bottle up and keep all these things that I know inside me, you know.
And lastly, Udidi Mabuza now is our deputy president in this country, and the ANC is heading towards 2019 elections. What do you see happening in the ANC with him close to our president? Well,
I think we should not focus on him. I think there are many allegations about him. So what do we need to do? We need to focus on the police, law enforcement agencies. What are they doing about those allegations? You know, people in Mpumalanga province are pointing fingers at each other. Why? It's because the police are not doing their job. They are being given hints, tip-offs, and sometimes documents and everything to investigate. But what happens to those cases, they go nowhere, and people are pointing fingers at each other. I don't think we should focus on Titi Mabuza a lot. We should focus on the police. What are they doing about all those allegations that they are supposed to be investigating? What is the National Prosecuting Authority doing as well? That's where we should focus and stop pointing fingers at each other.
Thank you very much for your time, Sizwe.
Thanks a lot.
That was Sizwe Yende speaking to Crima Media's Polity about his book titled Eerie Assignment, A Journalist's Nightmare in Mpumalanga.